A basketball legend soaked up the sun at Baker's Bay. Environment Minister Ken Dorsett said he won't be resigning, and new details emerge as the Public Accounts Committee continues its probe of Urban Renewal 2.0. We've got those stories and a whole lot more. I'm your host, Krishna Virgil, and this is the Tribune's Top 5. World-famous basketball player Michael Jordan is in love with the Bahamas. Six-time NBA champion Michael Jordan told reporters who were on a tour at the Baker's Bay Ocean and Golf Club in Abaco on Thursday that he looks for reasons to visit the property every single chance he gets. Mr. Jordan had taken a break from playing golf at Baker's Bay to briefly speak with Prime Minister Craig Christie and several of his cabinet ministers, where he said he fell in love with the Bahamas. He said he's been coming to the country for the last 15 years and has visited Baker's Bay twice in just 3 weeks. He sung the praises of the Bahamas, saying he was impressed by the hospitality and the improvements that continue to take place each time he returns. There are 48 high-end residences at the private residential community and an additional 35 currently under construction. Baker's Bay is a 3-mile-long bay on the island of Great Guana Key. On Wednesday, a man was shot to death at Union Village, marking the third murder over a 3-day period and pushing the country's murder count to 45 for the year, according to the Tribune's records. Police have identified the victim as 30-year-old Lionel Louis Jean of Robinson Road. He was shot shortly after 2 p.m. off of Wolf Road as he was walking with a female companion. Officer in charge of the Central Detective Unit, Chief Superintendent Paul Rowe, said a man with a handgun approached the victim, firing several shots in his direction. The victim ran, but he collapsed in the street, Chief Superintendent Rowe said, and was later declared dead on the scene. The female escaped unharmed during the ordeal. The murder came 2 days after a man was shot and killed while doing repair work on a car on Ida Street shortly after 4 p.m. On Monday, police said a gunman approached the victim and another male and fired shots at the pair. One of the victims was shot in the hand and ran for help, but the second man was shot multiple times and died at the scene. Investigators were also probing the death of a man whose body was found around 3:30 a.m. on Monday near the Blue Hills Sporting Complex. Police were acting on information when they went to a service road near the complex and made the discovery. He had multiple gunshot injuries to the body and was pronounced dead at the scene. Amid public backlash over the government's lack of transparency in the 2012 Rubis gas leak, Environment Minister Ken Dorsett shot back at calls for him to resign. The Environment Minister on Wednesday told the Tribune that despite widespread calls for him to step down, that it was not his intention. Mr. Dorsett said he had hoped to expedite public consultation on the matter, but could not release the independent report on remediation efforts and chemical exposure until it had been authorized by the Office of the Attorney General, adding, quote, "It is what it is," end quote. Defending the process, he confirmed that recommendations put forward by independent consultants concerning remediation plans had already been set in stone. The fuel leak was observed at Rubis service station at Robinson and Old Trail Roads in late December 2012 and reported to Rubis, Bahamas on January 19, 2013. BESS Commission Director Philip Weish said variance records approximated the release of 12,000 gallons of unleaded gasoline. Black & Veatch International completed their report on February 20th, 2014, but the report wasn't released until last Friday following public outcry at a Thursday town meeting hosted by the BESS Commission to present the findings. The report found that area residents were possibly exposed to harmful chemicals and that while remediation efforts were appropriate for underground contamination, Rubis could have expedited its response to off-site impacts. According to the report, benzene was found in air samples in Cable, Bahamas' main building and in a groundwater test well of one residential home. A Marathon family has filed a statement of claim in their lawsuit against Rubis, Bahamas and the former operator of the service station at Robinson and Old Trail Roads. Attorney Wayne Monroe hopes phone records will help to prove the innocence of embattled Michael MPV Alfred Gray amid claims that he intimidated an island administrator into releasing a young man from prison who had just been sentenced. Mr. Gray denies Miagwana Administrator Zephaniah Newbold's claims that he threatened the administrator with a transfer if he did not release the accused teen, according to an affidavit obtained by the Tribune. Mr. Newbold, in a letter sent to Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt, alleged that after sentencing Jaquan Charlton to 3 months imprisonment for assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest, he received a call from an angry Mr. Gray ordering him to immediately release Charlton. Mr. Gray abruptly hung up the phone, Mr. Newbold said in a letter obtained by the Tribune, adding that the cabinet minister later called back and threatened to have him transferred if he failed to heed his order. Speaking to the Tribune yesterday, Mr. Munro said this issue could devolve into a case of he say versus he say, if not for phone records that he believes exposes problems with Administrator Newbold's narrative. According to Mr. Newbold, between the first and second call Mr. Gray made to him, he spoke to a police officer identified as Assistant Superintendent T. Newbold, who then contacted her superiors. Mr. Newbold wrote that after this, he asked for Mr. Charlton to be brought back into his court and he ordered his release, while acting through fear and trepidation. According to phone records seen by the Tribune, calls from Mr. Gray to Mr. Newbold took place for about 3 minutes with a 1-minute gap between the first and second call. The first call was 1 minute long and the second call was 2 minutes. In his affidavit, Mr. Gray alleges that given this chronology of events, it would not have been possible for the administrator to speak to a prosecutor who then spoke to both the superior and the chief magistrate before speaking again to the administrator. In March, the opposition Free National Movement alleged that Mr. Gray used his position to have Charlton, who is 19, freed following conviction and sentencing. Mr. Gray has strongly denied that he in any way attempted to sway the course of justice. Police subsequently interviewed Mr. Gray on the matter on April 10. House Speaker Dr. Kendall Major said he was shocked by the opinions given to the Attorney General's office regarding the Public Accounts Committee and its probe into Urban Renewal 2.0. House Speaker Dr. Kendall Major on Thursday told the Tribune that the legal opinion, which the Tribune has gotten a copy of, it was unprecedented. The Speaker, who has said he sees no problem with the PAC's handling of the matter, said he would meet parliamentary clerks on Monday morning to determine a course of action. The legal opinion said, quote, "While it is clear that the PAC in the general performance of the duties allocated to it by the House may require the attendance of witnesses and the production of documents, the purported exercise of power in the instant case, if ultra vires, the powers and functions of the PAC, procedurally flawed, contrary to the statutory and constitutional principles regulating public finances, and raises the specter of interference with the constitutional functions of the Auditor General," end quote. It added that the PAC lacks the power to request that the Auditor General conduct specific audits of government departments or other bodies, and that attempts to apply this power runs contrary to the constitutional functions and special immunity given to the Auditor General under the Constitution. PAC Chairman Hubert Chipman has previously confirmed that the committee asked the Auditor General to investigate urban renewal and its small homes repair program. The report also says that, quote, PAC's ability to send for persons, papers, and records may only be exercised in the performance of its functions, which are confined to examining and reporting on reports of financial statements which have been laid before the House, end quote. The report notes that the audit in question was not tabled in the House of Assembly before it was leaked to the media. It argues that a committee cannot require evidence without permission from the Speaker of the House, who must act after a resolution of the chamber in question is concluded. Commenting on the matter, Opposition Leader Dr. Hubert Minnis said it looked fishy and questioned if the government is trying to set a precedent that the PAC could not properly investigate matters relating to public funds. Want to get in on the discussion? Well, here's how you can. Just log on to our website at www.tribune242.com. Like us on Facebook, the Tribune News Network. Send us a tweet at Tribune242 or subscribe to our YouTube page, Tribune242. And before we say farewell until next week, the Tribune would like to say welcome home to Mark Roberts and Sean Adderley, who battled the frigid temperatures at the North Pole.